today. The Washington Commanders had in a host of players, including the top prospects at quarterback that they would consider drafting next week with the number 2 overall selection. They had Jaden Daniels in. They had Michael Penix in. They had J.J. McCarthy and Drake May. All the top quarterback prospects. Again, I think the prevailing wisdom around the league is that Jaden Daniels is in line to become the 2nd overall pick. But this was a chance for the Commanders to spend more time with Jaden Daniels as well as the other quarterback prospects to see if they could firm up their decision to go in a certain direction in regards to which quarterback they would like to take at number 2.
Adam with us all show, a lot to get to. He's got some more draft buzz coming later. Bill Belichick, by the way, was on the Pat McAfee show today. He was asked about the Commanders hosting so many prospects at once.
Yeah, no, no, that wasn't. We weren't real big on that. It wasn't more of a recruiting for us. It was informational gathering. But I think we had maybe as many as a dozen come in on the same day, and a lot of times we'd combine the groups. So quarterbacks, tight ends, receivers. So that we could interact and work with them individually, but also collectively. Yeah, I can see bringing in a lot of guys at one time. It is an efficient way to use the visit time for your staff, because the more you tie your staff up on those visits, then the less productive you can be doing other things.
Yeah. What do you think, Lewis, of the Commanders hosting all these quarterback prospects at the same time?
Yeah, look, I understand what Bill is saying. You know, there are teams that will bring in a bunch of guys, and really there's some teams that'll do it all at one time. Maybe like within 2 days, 3 days, they'll bring all 30 guys in. But see, here's the difference with Washington. Washington, in essence, has the number 1 overall pick, because you can just go ahead and basically remove Chicago because you know who they're taking. So really the draft starts in terms of the intrigue and in terms of the speculation with Washington. Right? So if you, at this point, you're probably pretty locked in on who you're going to. The only reason you would do this right now is because you're not sure exactly. You're not really trying. Look, you don't have to do anything for anybody's sake. You don't have to run any kind of smoke screen. You don't have to do anything. You're basically in the driver's seat. You have the whole draft minus probably Caleb Williams at your disposal. So for me, what this sounds like, and if you kind of like bounce around the league and talk to people, I'm sure that to me, it sounds like there's not consensus, although for me, it's as easy. Like as soon as Caleb Williams' name get called, Jaden Daniels' name should get called. It almost should be simultaneous. But to me, it sounds like, and from what I hear, maybe it's not that way throughout the entire building. Maybe it's not a situation where he is just head and shoulders above Drake and above JJ and above Michael, and Bo Nix's name isn't on that list. But it doesn't sound like he is head and shoulders above. Because why else would you do this right now? Look, right now you're really trying to be efficient with your time right now. You're not trying to sit here and hey, look, why don't we just bring this guy in? Let's talk to this guy. Hey, you know what? I haven't talked to him. Let's just have a conversation with him too. That's not the time of year this is. Things are getting tight around organizations right now, if you know what I mean. Okay, people aren't real loose right now. They're kind of, especially when you're talking about picking number 2 overall and you're picking a quarterback. This, to me, sounds like we are trying to find out some things and figure out some things, and some things are on the table right now.
I'll tell you the other thing that's interesting. Just compare and contrast number 1 and number 2. Chicago brought in 1 quarterback. It sent a message to Caleb Williams, you're our guy. Washington, 8 days before the draft begins, brings in a whole group of quarterbacks. So the message to any one of these particular quarterbacks is, you might not be our guy. We're looking at all the guys right now. That's right. There are differing messages being delivered to each of the quarterbacks in this particular draft class. The Bears have told Caleb Williams through their actions, you're the quarterback we're picking. You're the only one we've brought in, and that's the only team that Caleb Williams has gone and visited. But the opposite is true of Washington, whole group of guys.
And for those like me who are counting, we're 8 days away from that NFL draft. Lots of buzz around the Vikings. They hold picks 11 and 23. Adam, what are you hearing about the Vikings' potential plans to draft a quarterback?
They have to come out of this first round with a quarterback. They lost Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons. They have an extra first-round draft pick, courtesy of the trade that they made earlier this offseason with the Houston Texans. They're scheduled to pick number 11 and 23, and many people around the league believe that they'll try to use those two picks, 11 and 23, to come up to get a quarterback that they want. A lot of people believe that they have their eyes set on Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback who the Vikings quarterbacks coach Josh McCown coached in high school. There's also some thought out there that they really like J.J. McCarthy. We'll see what the Vikings do, but they are the team to watch when it comes to moving up for a quarterback.
Yeah, look, this is a real good situation for a young quarterback to step into, whether that be as day one starter or as a guy who can sit behind Sam Darnold and learn. And I'll tell you why. You know what? I had a very smart quarterback coach just tell me recently, you know what makes Kevin O'Connell so good, besides the fact that he has Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones is a cap casualty, Tyler Chandler backing up Aaron Jones. You know what makes him so good, makes this football team so good, is the fact that he provides quarterbacks with answers. And not every coach, quite honestly, can do that. Not every coach can have the quarterback come to the sideline, quarterback tell him what's going on, tell him what's giving him problems, and he comes up with definitive answers to help that guy play better. Kevin does that. And that's what a young quarterback is going to need up here in order to compete in that division overall and in the conference overall. So if I'm a young guy, look, I understand Chicago has done fantastic work. And we all have praised their management team up there as far as the weapons that they brought in and how this offensive line looks going into the season. But Minnesota will take a backseat to nobody. They have everything to offer a young quarterback.
Some more draft buzz to nail down here. The Raiders hold the number 13 pick. They got Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell on the roster as quarterbacks. Adam, what are you hearing about the Raiders' interest in drafting a QB?
Well, they continue to be linked to Michael Penix Jr. in round one. We'll see whether or not there's any reality or smoke to that, but that has continued to come up in speculation across the league. And I think the Raiders would like to find a way to add a quarterback somehow, some way. We'll see whether or not that works out. Michael Penix is somebody I think the late Al Davis would have loved. Left-hander, throws a great deep ball. And Michael Penix has really shined during the pre-draft process. I know there's some teams that have some questions, but there also are a lot of teams that don't and believe that he's going to be a first-round draft pick here. We'll see if the Raiders are the team to make that happen.
Schefter, I love that. Listen, I think Michael Penix would be phenomenal for the Raiders and Antonio Pierce. Luke Getsy comes in as the offensive coordinator. But when you think about this team with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Meyer, Michael Mayer, who they drafted out of Notre Dame, you want to be able to push the ball down the field. He has precision route runners as well, and people talked about his accuracy. He played with Rome Odunze and another wide receiver that he was able to feature and feed the ball to, so you don't worry about him spreading it around. He has suddenness in the pocket as well. The unorthodox throwing motion may turn some people off, but more importantly, the injuries. And that is what the front office and the coaching staffs are going to have to reconcile with when making this decision. But I love that they went out and got Gardner Minshew, who we saw be able to go to the playoffs last year, stepping in for Anthony Richardson, and also Michael Penix maybe having time to sit. Another thing, he'll be 24 years old. So either you like the maturity or you say we don't want to start out with a guy at this age. I think the Las Vegas Raiders are in a great position at 13 for people to not to put too much pressure on a quarterback sitting right there in that spot. I think Michael Penix Jr. would be a great pickup and addition for them, especially if he can play to the level in which he played at Washington last year.
A reminder that all these teams do their own medical evals too, so whoever drafts him, they're going to know a lot of information about him. And by the way, we all do it, Swag, but you got to do push-ups after that, so we'll check in on those later. He can do them. He's got a six-pack. All right, the Giants sit at number 6.
I'm swole.
Yeah, you are. We've seen Brian Dable and Joe Shane at quite a few of the top quarterback prospects pro days. Adam, what are you hearing about the Giants' interest in drafting a quarterback despite the fact that they have Daniel Jones?
Again, I think if the right quarterback is there at number 6, and I think that could be Drake May, then I think the Giants could potentially have some interest. But I also think that they have other needs. Their general manager, Joe Shane, has been very public about the fact that they feel like they have a lot of needs to address, and it's hard to imagine that they would bypass one of the top wide receivers in this draft in favor of a quarterback unless the right guy happened to slide right to them, in which case when you have Daniel Jones coming off a torn ACL, who's had neck issues, then maybe you're going to have to take a look. At least that's what people around the league believe. And I think there's some thought that the Giants will look to get a quarterback in this draft, but it just might not come as early as the 6th overall pick.
Logan, you played with Daniel Jones on the Giants. What do you think the Giants' plan at quarterback should be?
Yeah, look, I agree with Adam here. I do not believe, and WFAN, New Yorkers, if you're listening, do not trade up to number 4 and get J.J. McCarthy. Don't do it. I just don't think that the 4th best quarterback in this draft, whoever you have as that is, I don't think they're better than what Daniel Jones was coming out of college. It's the same thing. Daniel's tall. Daniel's got an arm. Daniel's athletic. We know that. The problem with Daniel Jones has been his ability to stay healthy. Okay, so if you don't like that, take one of the best pass catchers available, Neighbors out of LSU or Odunze out of Washington, right? Give that future quarterback, when you do get him, a top receiver. They need that. They need holes all over the roster. They need a great receiver. It's a great receiver draft. Get him at 6, and then we're going to go pound the quarterback during free agency or the trade market. Do what the Steelers did. Go get Russ and Justin Fields. One of them's not going to be there next year, right? So maybe wait for that if Daniel Jones doesn't come back how you want. But the guys in the locker room, I play with Daniel Jones. We all like Daniel Jones. He's a hard worker. He's first in the building. I get all those things. And he does a good job at it. He's going to recover from this injury. He's going to play his type of ball. We'll see what that is. If you don't like it, attack free agency. Go get a veteran quarterback with better playmakers around him to get better the next couple
Adam,
years.
what are you hearing about the Pats' plans with that number 3 overall pick?
Laura, I think they're going to take calls at 3, but they'd like to stay there and get their quarterback. There aren't many chances that you get to have a top 5, no less a top 3 pick. New England is positioned to do that right now, and a lot of people talk about the top quarterbacks in this particular draft. New England's right there. Saying that, again, they'll listen to calls, they'll see what the offers are, and they'll make a decision at that point in time whether it's best for them to stay where they are, which is the more likely scenario, or if they get a good enough offer to trade the pick. But they want to come out of this first round with a quarterback, whether they stay there or trade back and maybe try to come back up again, as Arizona did last year.
It's fascinating because they certainly need the assets. Logan, you played with new Patriots coach Gerard Mayo. What do you think Gerard needs to do with this pick?
Yeah, Gerard, former teammate of mine, stay your butt there at number 3, take a quarterback. We're in the hope selling business. We need time, brother. And drafting a quarterback at 3, Drake May, or a guy you might like at 3, that's going to get you some time. New England hasn't been in this position since pre-Brady, and I saw that Bledsoe brought some hope to them. Yeah. I think they got to get some hope there. I think they got to get that rookie quarterback in. Listen, you can sit him behind Brissett there, right? Yeah. He doesn't have to play right away. But I do think they need to address this quarterback position for the future because New England fans haven't lost in a long time. They don't want to see that much longer. So I think Gerard's a smart guy. I think he'll stay there at 3.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think it's foolish to think that you can just say, hey, you know what? We'll pass on a quarterback because we don't think that we have the structure to support him in terms of the roster. And we'll just pick one up next year. We'll just do that. We'll get all these other pieces, like assuming you're just going to draft that wide receiver who's perfect, that offensive guard that's perfect, that, defensive pass rush who's going to give you 10+ sacks. Like, assuming you're going to nail all those picks too, right? So, and then then you're just going to plop the quarterback in there. That's not how it works. It very seldom works that way. And look, Logan's right. You don't pass on a guy who you feel can be a decades-plus quarterback. I don't care what your roster looks like. I don't care if you have 52 guys who look like me out there. You put them, you draft the guy, and then you wind up and you work to develop him, especially when you have a quarterback room that honestly is set up pretty good for a young guy. Yeah. Jacoby's the kind of guy you want a young quarterback to be around. Bailey Zappi's that kind of guy you want a young quarterback to be around. And Alex Van Pelt, the new offensive coordinator, is a former quarterback himself. So I think it's a good situation for a young quarterback to have to go into, and whether he plays or not is irrelevant. You just have to sell hope, and you have to set yourself up for the future. You have to start at that position.
Okay, so I hate to do this and deviate, but I got to ask Lou a question because I'm supposed to piggyback and give y'all my analysis and thought. But I got to ask Lou this because he's literally been in this position. Lou, what happens if they get the 3 and they don't feel like the quarterback there is the quarterback of the future? What just hypothetically, if it's Caleb and Jaden go 1 and 2, and they don't feel Drake May, Penix, or Bo Nix is that guy, what do they do, bro?
Yeah, if you don't feel like any one of those guys is worth it there, but you feel like, hey, okay, the draft is a pricing mechanism, right? So if you don't feel like you want to pay that price,
Right.
but you'd like to take a chance on one of these guys, then you move down. You move down to a spot where you feel as though, hey, look, maybe here I can live with this price and I can pick up some extra picks. Then that's what you do.
Yeah. I mean, the thought that I had too, like now that I got Lou to answer that question, the thought that I had was similar to what he said, which is why I asked. I think it's set up for a young quarterback to come in, and to Logan's point as well, if you have to sit behind Jacoby Brissett with Gerard Mayo being in this first year, you at least can have calm waters and play pretty good football. Because obviously we know that they have to make other moves to help this roster. But you get Christian Gonzalez back, a young corner that you drafted last year that showed a lot of promise. They are not devoid. My dog, Devon Garchar, in the middle of this defense. Like, they have some pieces. They have to do a lot of work. But the quarterback situation obviously is always going to be polarizing. But I do believe that a young quarterback walks into a really good situation, whether he has to play now or play later.